The night Roman Maddox was supposed to die, his family did not run to him. They waited. High above storm-soaked New Orleans, the most feared man in the city lay on cold marble, burning with fever, reaching for a phone that no one answered. His brother was unavailable. His lawyer stayed silent. His men looked away. And the only person who came back was the maid he had once treated like she was invisible. Maybe that is what makes this story dangerous. It is not just about a mafia king losing power. It is about the moment pride breaks, loyalty is tested, and one quiet woman proves that some hearts cannot be bought. Stay with this story because what she does next changes everything, like this video and comment where you are watching from. Roman Maddox had not always been the kind of man people feared to look in the eye, but New Orleans had a way of teaching men which parts of themselves to bury. 3 weeks before that storm, the city woke under a pale gray sky with the Mississippi River moving slow and heavy past the docks like it was carrying secrets from one century into another. Tugboats pushed barges through the morning fog. Delivery trucks rattled over broken pavement behind restaurants that still smelled of last night's whiskey and fried oysters. On Royal Street, shopkeepers lifted metal gates. In the French Quarter, the first tourists wandered out with coffee cups in hand, unaware that half the buildings they admired belonged in one way or another to Roman Maddox. His name did not appear on every deed. It did not need to. Roman owned a private security firm with city contracts, 3 riverfront warehouses, 2 luxury hotels, a chain of restaurants, and a construction company that always seemed to win the right bids at the right time. Beneath all of that sat the part nobody mentioned in daylight. Gambling debts, union pressure, port favors, political leverage, men who collected money with soft voices and hard eyes. Roman had built his kingdom without raising his voice. That was what scared people most. He was not loud. He did not slam tables. He did not wear gold chains or make threats he did not intend to keep. He walked into rooms in dark suits, no tie, no wasted movement, and men twice his size found themselves standing straighter. His hair was black with silver at the temples. His face had sharp lines, the kind carved by discipline rather than age. His eyes were dark and patient, which made them worse than angry eyes. Angry men rushed. Roman waited. At 44, he had already learned that fear worked best when it arrived quietly. That morning, he stood at the glass wall of his penthouse above the river, holding a cup of black coffee. Far below, the city moved under him. Horns, sirens, church bells, street music, all softened by height and expensive glass. His home occupied the top floor of a tower near the warehouse district. All marble floors, steel-framed windows, low leather furniture, and art chosen by consultants who knew price better than beauty. There was no family noise in that penthouse. No wife calling from another room. No children leaving toys underfoot. No music unless Roman chose it. Only the hush of climate control, the faint tick of an antique clock, and the sound of a woman cleaning in the kitchen. Ella Parker wiped the counter with slow, careful strokes, making sure not to move anything more than an inch. In homes like this, objects had rules. Glass bowls faced certain directions. Books sat at exact angles. Flowers had to look alive, but never wild. Rich people paid for perfection and called it peace. Ella knew better than to disturb a man's peace before 9 in the morning. She was 24, with tired brown eyes that noticed more than they revealed dark hair pinned at the back of her neck, and hands made rough by bleach soap, and years of doing work other people pretended not to see. Her uniform was simple. White blouse, black pants, flat shoes, no jewelry except the thin silver cross her grandmother had given her when she left Mississippi. The agency had told her to be discreet. Ella had learned discretion long before the agency. She had learned it in a small house outside Jackson where bills sat on the kitchen table like threats, and grown-ups whispered about money after children were supposed to be asleep. She had learned it in hospital waiting rooms, watching nurses move with tired kindness, while doctors spoke in words her grandmother did not understand. She had learned it at 13, when her mother died from an infection that started small, then spread because nobody had the money or time to catch it early. After that, Ella noticed bodies. A hand pressed too long against a rib, a cough swallowed behind a closed fist, a face pretending not to hurt. People told lies with their mouths. Their bodies rarely bothered. She had been cleaning Roman Maddox's penthouse for nearly 6 months. 3 days a week, sometimes 4 if there was a dinner meeting, or one of his men tracked mud across the entry floor. She did not like him. Liking had nothing to do with it. She worked, got paid, went home and placed folded bills into an envelope marked School Fund. Nursing school was not a dream to her. Dreams were soft. Nursing school was a plan. A plan with tuition numbers, application deadlines, community college credits, and late-night study sessions under a lamp that flickered when the air conditioner kicked on. She wanted a life where she could walk into a room and know how to help before it was too late. She wanted the knowledge that might have saved her mother. She wanted something nobody could take unless she handed it over. Roman turned from the window. His coffee cup was almost empty. Ella felt his attention before she saw him looking. Men like Roman did not glance. They measured. "Miss Parker," he said. "Yes, Mr. Maddox. The glass table in the sitting room has streaks. I'll get it. I asked for it done before 8. It was done before 8. He stared at her. She held his gaze for one breath, then lowered her eyes just enough to keep her job. "The sun hits it from the east at this hour," she said. "Shows things that weren't visible earlier. I'll fix it." Roman said nothing. That was his way of allowing an answer to live. Ella picked up the cloth and glass spray from beneath the sink. As she passed him, she caught the faint scent of his cologne cedar and smoke, expensive but restrained. She also caught something else. A rough breath. Too short. Too tight. Roman turned back toward the river before she could study him. She cleaned the glass table in the sitting room. The entire time she felt him behind her, not near, but present. He had that effect. Even standing still, Roman filled rooms. The penthouse seemed built around him as if the stone and steel had agreed to serve one man's silence. On the table beside the sofa sat an old book with a cracked spine. Not a display copy. The pages were worn soft at the edges. Ella recognized the title because she had seen it on a library shelf once, but never checked it out. Roman noticed her looking. "You read?" he asked. Ella straightened. "When I have time." "That was not what I asked." She folded the cloth in her hand. "Yes." "What?" "Anything I can get from the library. Mostly novels. Some anatomy books lately." "Anatomy for school." His expression did not change, but his eyes sharpened. "You are in school." "Not yet." "Then you are not in school." Ella swallowed the first answer that rose in her throat. "No, Mr. Maddox. Not yet." He picked up his coffee cup and walked toward the study. The conversation was over because he had ended it. Ella watched the door close behind him and returned to the table. She had worked for enough wealthy people to know the difference between curiosity and judgment. Roman Maddox asked questions like a man inspecting locked doors. If he found weakness, he remembered where it was. By noon, the penthouse had visitors. The private elevator opened and Caleb Maddox stepped out like he owned the air. He looked younger than Roman, though not by much. Where Roman was dark stone, Caleb was polished brass. Light brown hair swept back, blue eyes that smiled before his mouth did, tailored suit in a softer shade than Roman ever wore. He had the easy charm of a man who knew people relaxed around him and the cold patience of a man who used that relaxation against them. 2 men followed him, both broad-shouldered, both careful not to touch anything. Ella was replacing towels in the guest bath when she heard Caleb's voice carry through the hall. "Brother, tell me you ate something today." Roman's reply was lower. "Tell me you came with something worth my time." Caleb laughed. There was warmth in it, but not much. Ella paused with a folded towel in her hands. She did not mean to listen. That was another lie rich people liked to believe about workers, that ears stopped working when hands were busy. The men moved into the sitting room. Caleb said, "The riverfront bid is done. City council signs next week. Our friend on the permit board wants reassurance." "He has been reassured twice," Roman said. "He wants a third time. Then he is nervous. He is greedy. Greed is manageable. Nerves are dangerous." A glass clinked. Caleb lowered his voice, but not enough. "You know I could handle the meeting. He likes me. He likes being alive." A silence followed. Ella placed the towel on the rack, aligning the edge with the tile line. Caleb spoke again, lighter now. "You ever get tired of reminding every room who is in charge no?" I figured. Something about that last answer sat in the air like smoke. Ella stepped into the hallway carrying the laundry basket. Caleb turned and saw her. His smile widened, but his eyes did not join it. "There she is," he said. "The quiet one." Ella kept walking. Roman's voice stopped her. "Miss Parker." She turned. "Yes, Mr. Maddox. You can finish upstairs." "There is no upstairs," Roman Caleb said, amused. Roman looked at him. The amusement disappeared. "I'll finish the bedrooms," Ella said. As she passed Caleb, he leaned slightly toward one of the men beside him and said in a voice made to be heard, "At least this one understands furniture should not talk." Ella did not react. That was another skill poverty taught early. Do not flinch every time someone throws a stone. They start to enjoy the sound. In Roman's bedroom, she changed the sheets with quick, controlled movements. The room was immaculate in a way that felt less like cleanliness and more like defense. No clutter, no softness. One chair near the window, one lamp, one watchbox, one photograph on the nightstand. The photograph was of a woman standing in front of an old brick house with a garden behind her. She had dark hair, tired eyes, and the kind of smile that looked like it had survived grief without becoming bitter. Roman's mother, Ella, guessed. The frame was worn at the corners. The glass was spotless. That told her more than any conversation could. She dusted around it carefully and did not move it. By late afternoon, the meetings were done. Caleb left first, still smiling. Roman stayed in the study with the door partly open. Ella packed her supplies in the kitchen and checked the counters one last time. Then she heard it. A cough. Not polite, not small. A deep, ugly sound that seemed to tear through Roman's chest. It stopped suddenly, as if he had strangled it by force. Ella stood still. Another cough came muffled this time. Then silence. She walked to the study doorway. Roman stood beside his desk with one hand braced on the leather chair. In his other hand was a white handkerchief folded too quickly. "Mr. Maddox." He did not turn. "You are done for the day," he said. "You sound sick." "I sound like a man who expects his staff to know when to leave." Ella looked at his hand. A corner of the handkerchief showed red before his fist closed around it. Her stomach tightened. "My grandmother used to say blood in a cough is not something to negotiate with. Your grandmother does not work here." "No, I do." He turned then. The look he gave her would have made most people apologize for breathing too loudly. Ella did not apologize. "I can call your doctor," she said. "If I need a doctor, I will call one. You might not be the best judge of that." His jaw set. "Be careful, Miss Parker." There it was again. The warning. Calm, almost gentle, which made it worse. Ella picked up her bag. "Yes, Mr. Maddox." She left because she needed the job. But as the elevator descended, she saw the red on that handkerchief in her mind. A small streak. Easy to dismiss. Easy to hide. The kind of thing that killed people because pride told them it was nothing. 2 days passed. When Ella returned, the penthouse was dim, curtains half drawn, breakfast untouched on the kitchen island. Roman's coffee sat cold beside the machine with the sugar cube dissolved at the bottom. That alone made her uneasy. Roman Maddox did not leave coffee unfinished. She found him in the sitting room standing at the window in the same dark suit as always, but there was a strange stillness in him. Not the usual control. Something locked down too tightly. His face was pale beneath the warm reflection of the glass. "Good morning," Ella said. He did not answer. She moved closer slowly. "Mr. Maddox, I heard you. You did not answer. I was not aware we had a social arrangement." Ella set her bag down. "Did you sleep?" He turned his head just enough to look at her. "That is not your concern. The sheets are still tucked in. Your coffee is cold. There are pills on the counter that have not been opened. You are sweating, but the room is cold." For a moment, his eyes went flat. "What else have you noticed?" The question was quiet. Dangerous. Ella understood then that Roman did not like being seen. Not truly. Men like him made careers out of watching others while revealing nothing. To be noticed by a maid was not just irritating. It was an insult to the order of his world. She chose her next words with care. "I noticed you might need help." "You noticed wrong." He walked past her toward the study. His steps were measured. At the 5th step, his hand brushed the wall. Barely. Most people would have missed it. Ella did not. In the kitchen, she opened drawers until she found a first aid kit behind imported tea tins nobody used. Inside were bandages, antiseptic pain relievers, and a digital thermometer still sealed in plastic. She set it on the counter beside a glass of water. Roman emerged from the study 20 minutes later. His eyes went to the thermometer. "No. You have not heard the question." "I know the question." "Then answer like a grown man." His gaze snapped to hers. Ella felt fear move through her body fast and cold. She kept her shoulders still. Roman walked to the counter, picked up the thermometer, and dropped it into the trash. Then he drank the water. It should not have felt like a victory. It did. That afternoon, Caleb called. Roman put him on speaker while signing documents at the dining table. Ella was polishing the silver cabinet across the room. "People are asking why you missed the breakfast meeting," Caleb said. "People ask too much. They get nervous when you disappear. Then calm them. I have been." Roman's pen stopped. On the phone, Caleb breathed softly. I told them you were handling private matters. You told them nothing." "Of course." Roman ended the call without goodbye. Ella watched him place the phone face down on the table. His hand trembled once. Only once. He stared at it until it stopped. That evening, after Ella left, Roman tried to work through the fever. He read contracts without seeing words. He took calls and answered in sentences so short men on the other end began to sweat. He stood at the window and let the city blur below him. His chest hurt with each breath. His skin felt too hot for his bones. At midnight, he removed his jacket and sat on the edge of the bed. The room tilted. He closed his eyes. His father's voice came back to him from a childhood kitchen in Baton Rouge after Roman had come home with a split lip from a fight he had lost. Pain is information, not an excuse. Roman had lived by that. Pain told you where you were weak. You covered it, corrected it, used it. You did not bow to it. He stood. The floor shifted beneath him. He made it to the bathroom before his legs gave out. Marble hit his shoulder first, then his hip. The impact stole the breath from his lungs. For several seconds he lay there staring at the base of the vanity, listening to his own breath rattle in his chest. He hated the sound. Weakness had a sound. Now it was coming from him. In the morning, Ella found the penthouse too quiet again. No coffee, no footsteps, no low voice from the study. She called once from the entry. "Mr. Maddox, nothing." She walked through the sitting room, past the windows, past the dining table where unsigned papers sat stacked in perfect order. Then she saw the bathroom door half open. Roman was on the floor. His shirt clung to his back. His face was turned toward the wall. One hand gripped the edge of a bath mat as if he had tried to pull himself up and failed. Ella dropped her bag. Mr. Maddox. His eyes opened. Even on the floor, even burning with fever, he looked furious. "Get out!" She stopped in the doorway. "You need help. Get out!" The second time his voice cracked. That crack scared her more than the anger. She stepped back. For a moment she did exactly what he ordered. She walked away from the bathroom, down the hall into the kitchen. Her hands shook as she filled the kettle. She hated that they shook. She found a clean towel, a glass, salt crackers, another thermometer from the hall closet, because houses like this always had two of everything. She poured water, added a pinch of salt because her grandmother had done that when fever took hold and there was nothing else yet to do. Then she went back. Roman was still on the floor. His eyes were closed. "Mr. Maddox." "I told you," he whispered. "I know what you told me." She knelt beside him. His eyes opened dark and burning. "You do not touch me." Ella wrung out the warm towel. "I clean your sinks, your floors, and your blood off the corner of that vanity. You can survive a towel." His stare sharpened. For one strange second she thought he might laugh. He did not, but he did not stop her when she pressed the towel to his forehead. The heat coming off him was terrible. "Hospital," she said. "No." "Doctor." "No." "Brother." His eyes closed. "No." That answer was different. Not anger. Instinct. Ella heard it and filed it away. She held the glass to his mouth. He turned his face away. "Drink." "No." "Roman Maddox, if you die of dehydration on a bathroom floor, I swear I will tell everyone in this city it was because you were too stubborn to sip water." His eyes opened again. This time something moved behind them. Irritation, yes. Pain, too. And beneath both, something almost human. He drank. Not much. Enough. She helped him sit up against the vanity. It took several minutes. He was heavier than he looked, all muscle and fever and pride resisting her every movement. By the time he was upright, sweat had gathered on Ella's neck and Roman's breathing had gone shallow. He hated needing her. She could feel it. "I did not ask for this," he said. "No. Then why are you doing it?" Ella looked at him, at the powerful man on the floor, at the bloodless lips, at the fine suit ruined by sweat, at the room full of money where no one else had come. "Because somebody has to," she said. A sound came from the hallway, the private elevator. Ella turned her head, relief rising before she could stop it. Caleb stepped into the penthouse with his phone in one hand. He wore a cream-colored jacket and a look of mild inconvenience. Roman Ella stood. "In here." Caleb appeared in the bathroom doorway. He looked at his brother on the floor. For 1 second, his face was naked. Not worried, not grieving, calculating. Then concern slid into place. "Jesus, Roman." Roman's eyes opened. "Leave." Caleb glanced at Ella. "What happened?" "He collapsed," she said. "He has a high fever. He needs a doctor." Caleb stepped into the room, then stopped before getting too close. "Roman hates doctors. Roman is on the floor." Caleb's eyes cooled. "What was your name again, Ella?" "Ella. Right." He smiled without warmth. "The agency girl." Roman's voice scraped out. "Do not." Caleb looked down at him. Do not what help? Because that seems to be the family specialty today. Roman tried to push himself upright. His arm failed. Ella moved to steady him, but he jerked away from her touch. Caleb saw it, saw everything. Something small and sharp passed through his expression. You need rest, Caleb said. Privacy. I'll tell the others you're unavailable. Tell them nothing. Hard to do when half the city is asking where you are. Roman's breathing worsened. Ella stepped between them before she thought better of it. He needs a doctor now. Caleb looked at her as if the furniture had spoken again. Miss Parker, this is family business. Then act like family. The words left her mouth before caution could catch them. The bathroom went silent. Roman stared at her. Caleb stared longer. Then he smiled. Softly. That is an expensive tone for a woman on hourly pay. Ella felt the warning, but she did not move. Caleb crouched beside Roman, careful not to let his trouser knee touch the floor. I'll handle everything, he said. Roman's eyes were fever bright. You always wanted to. Caleb's smile faded. For a moment, the brothers looked at each other with an old hatred that had learned to wear family skin. Then Caleb stood. I'll call Graham, he said. We will keep this quiet. Call a doctor, Ella said. Caleb did not look at her. He walked to the elevator. The doors closed behind him. No doctor came. By afternoon, Ella had managed to get Roman from the bathroom to the bed. He cursed her twice, threatened to fire the agency once, and nearly passed out before his head touched the pillow. She changed the sheets around him because fever had soaked them through. She opened the curtains halfway. She placed water on the nightstand. She called the agency and said Mr. Maddox required additional household support. The woman on the phone hesitated. We were told Mr. Maddox prefers reduced staff this week, by who I'm not authorized to discuss client instructions. Ella looked toward the bedroom where Roman slept like a man fighting something in his dreams. Then authorize this, she said. If he dies in that apartment alone, nobody is blaming me for respecting a scheduling note. The line went quiet. We can keep you on for tomorrow, the woman said. Tomorrow? As if care could be scheduled in 8-hour blocks. Ella hung up. Near sunset, Roman woke. She was standing at the window looking down at the city. You're still here, he said. His voice was rough but clearer. Ella turned. Yes, you disobey often, only when people make bad decisions loudly. He stared at her. You think you are brave. No. I think I am tired of what watching people with power pretend they do not bleed. That landed somewhere neither of them expected. Roman looked away first. The sky behind the windows turned purple. The Mississippi caught the last light and broke it into pieces. Somewhere below, a brass band started playing on a corner, the music rising faintly through the glass, bright and mournful at the same time. Ella picked up the thermometer. Roman closed his eyes. No, she sat beside the bed. I know you scare people, she said. I know people do what you say because it is easier than finding out what happens if they don't. But fever does not care who you are. Infection does not care what men call you. Your body is not one of your employees. He opened his eyes. There was anger in them. There was also exhaustion. Do you always talk this much? Only to difficult patients. I am not your patient. Then stop acting like one. He held her gaze. Slowly he opened his mouth. Ella placed the thermometer under his tongue before he could change his mind. For the first time since she had known him, Roman Maddox obeyed. The number blinked red. 104.1. Ella felt the air leave her lungs. Roman read her face. That bad? Yes. Do not look so pleased. I am not pleased. You enjoy being right. I enjoy people not dying. He closed his eyes again. A quiet passed between them, not gentle but less armed. In the study, Roman's phone began to ring. Neither of them moved. It rang until it stopped. A minute later, it rang again. Roman's eyes opened. "Bring it." Ella brought the phone. The screen showed Caleb. Roman looked at it for 3 rings, then declined the call. Ella said nothing. He placed the phone on his chest. "You are judging me," he said. "I am wondering why you would rather die than let someone see you need help." His face hardened. Need is a word people use before they put a collar on you. Ella absorbed that. The answer was ugly. It was also honest. She looked at the photograph on the nightstand. His mother's face smiled from behind clean glass. "Did she teach you that Roman's eyes followed hers?" The room changed. The temperature seemed to drop. "Leave the room," he said. Ella stood. This time she obeyed. In the kitchen, she washed the bowl she had used for broth and tried not to think about the way his voice had changed when she looked at that photograph. Not angry, exactly. Wounded. A locked door hit from the wrong side. She had seen that in patients at clinics. She had seen it in her grandmother. She had seen it in herself. Some pain did not want comfort. It wanted guards. Night fell over New Orleans. The penthouse lights reflected in the windows until the city looked doubled, one real and one ghostly. Ella made soup from what she could find in the kitchen. Chicken stock, rice, carrots, garlic, a little cayenne because this was Louisiana and bland food felt like surrender. She carried the bowl to Roman's room. He looked at it like an accusation. "I did not ask for that. I noticed. Take it away." "No." His eyes narrowed. "You forget yourself." "No," she said. "I remember exactly who I am. I am the woman standing here with soup because your brother walked out and your men have not called and your lawyer thinks a dying man is a local problem." The words sat between them. Roman's jaw tightened. "You know nothing about my family." "I know they are not here." His face went cold. For a second, Ella thought she had gone too far. Then he looked toward the window. "Put it down." She placed the bowl on the nightstand. He did not touch it. "Fine." She turned to leave. At the door, his voice stopped her. "Miss Parker." She looked back. His eyes were still on the window. "What is your first name?" She could have told him he knew it. Caleb had said it. The agency records had it. Her name had been printed on every invoice. But Roman Maddox asking was not the same as Roman Maddox knowing. "Ella," she said. He nodded once. "Ella." Her name sounded different in his voice. Not soft. Nothing about Roman was soft, but real. She left the room. When she returned an hour later, the bowl was empty. Roman was asleep. His phone lay dark beside him. Across town, Caleb Maddox stood in the private room of his Garden District restaurant listening as Graham Voss explained which meetings had been delayed, which contracts needed signatures, which men were beginning to ask questions. Caleb looked out at the rain shining on the street. Then he looked at Roman's missed call log on his own phone and smiled at the silence. That silence became useful to Caleb Maddox. By the next morning, he had learned how much could be moved when a powerful man was too sick to answer his phone. He sat in the private dining room of his Garden District restaurant while the city outside steamed after rain. The place was closed to the public until dinner, but the kitchen was already alive behind the walls. Knives tapped against cutting boards. Oil hissed in pans. Somewhere a dishwasher laughed too loudly and was quickly told to lower his voice. Caleb liked that sound, people lowering their voices when he entered. It was almost respect. Graham Voss sat across from him with a leather folder open on the table. He was an older man with silver hair, small, careful eyes, and hands that looked too clean for the things they had signed. He had served the Maddox family for nearly 30 years. He had seen Roman break men with silence and Caleb charm men into betraying themselves. He trusted neither brother. That was why he had lived so long. "Roman missed the port call this morning," Graham said. Caleb stirred cream into his coffee, though he never drank it that way. Did anyone panic? Not openly. That means they panicked. Graham closed the folder. They asked whether they should come to the tower. Caleb looked up. And what did you tell them? That Mr. Maddox is recovering from exhaustion and does not wish to be disturbed. Caleb smiled. You always had a gift for clean lies. They were your words, and your voice made them respectable. Graham did not return the smile. He is still alive, Caleb, for now. The room seemed to hold its breath after that. Caleb set down the spoon with a soft click. Do not look at me like that. I did not make him sick. Roman did that himself. Years of refusing rest, refusing help, refusing to admit he has a body like the rest of us. He is your brother. He is also the reason every man in this city knows my last name before my first. Graham leaned back. There it is. Caleb's eyes sharpened. What? The truth, under the concern. Caleb laughed once, low and dry. Concern has never built anything in this family. He stood and walked to the window. Outside, oak branches bent over the street, their leaves dark from rain. A black car idled at the curb. Two of Roman's men stood beside it, but their eyes kept drifting toward Caleb's restaurant. That pleased him more than it should have. For years, those men had walked past him to get to Roman. They had laughed at his jokes, accepted his envelopes, nodded when he spoke, but their loyalty had always belonged upstairs to the man in the dark suit who needed only one look to silence a room. Now Roman was sweating through sheets in a tower across town, and Caleb was standing. Move the Thursday meeting here, Caleb said. Graham was quiet. Caleb, do it. You cannot simply step into his chair. I am not stepping into anything. I am keeping the business stable while my brother recovers. And if he asks, Caleb turned from the window, then tell him stability was required. Graham studied him for a long moment. And if he does not recover, Caleb's face softened into something almost sad. Then at least one of us was thinking clearly. By noon, the calls began. A warehouse manager first, a hotel partner after that, a councilman who pretended he was only checking in, two captains from the West Bank, a union contact whose voice shook until Caleb told him everything remained under control. That was the phrase he used all day. Under control. Men loved those words. They did not care who spoke them so long as someone did. By nightfall, the center of Roman's empire had shifted a few miles across the city, not with gunfire, not with blood, not even with an announcement, only with answered calls. At the penthouse, Roman heard none of it. His world had shrunk to fever water curtains, and the woman who kept walking in after he ordered her out. Ella arrived the next morning with her hair pulled back and dark half-moons beneath her eyes. She had slept badly. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Roman on the bathroom floor. His pride cracked open just enough for fear to show through. She told herself she was not worried about him. Worry was too personal. She was responsible, that was all. Responsible people came back when someone was sick. Responsible people did not leave a man alone with a fever over 104 because he was rich enough to die privately. The private elevator opened into the penthouse, and the first thing she noticed was the smell. Stale sweat, cold coffee, untouched food. A house had a body of its own, and this one felt abandoned. Mr. Maddox. No answer. She found him in bed, turned toward the window, the sheets twisted around his legs. The soup bowl from the night before sat empty on the nightstand. The water glass was half full. His phone lay face down, silent. Ella stepped closer. Roman. His eyes opened at once. Not fully awake. Still dangerous. You have gotten comfortable. No, she said. You stopped answering to Mr. Maddox when you started eating soup like a man with sense. He stared at her for several seconds. "Leave the curtains." "I wasn't touching the curtains." "You were thinking about it." "I think about a lot of things I don't do." "Try doing fewer." His voice was rough, but there was more life in it than yesterday. That gave her relief she did not want him to see. She set her bag on the chair and took out the thermometer. His expression hardened. "No." "Good morning to you too." "I said no." "And I heard you." "Then why are you still holding it?" "Because I am giving you the chance to become reasonable before I become difficult." His eyes narrowed. "You believe this is you being easy. This is me being polite." A faint sound moved in his throat. It might have been irritation. It might have been the ghost of amusement. He opened his mouth. She placed the thermometer under his tongue. A minute later it beeped. 103.6. Still dangerous. Better than before. Ella wrote the number in a small notebook she had brought from home. Roman watched her. "What is that A record? For whom? For me?" "I do not remember hiring you as a nurse. You didn't. You hired me to keep your house in order. And this is housekeeping. You dying in the sheets creates more laundry than I care to manage." His gaze held hers. This time he looked away first. Ella went to the kitchen and warmed broth. As it heated, she checked the refrigerator and found 3 prepared meals untouched. Someone downstairs had been sending them up, but nobody had made sure he ate. There was a difference between delivery and care. Rich people confused the two often. She carried the broth back to him. He sat up slowly, jaw clenched against the effort. She did not offer to help. Not yet. There were times when dignity was medicine too. He took the cup from her and drank. His hand shook once. She pretended not to see. "Your brother called," she asked. "No." "Your lawyer." "No." "Your men." His eyes lifted. "You keeping count?" "Yes." "Why? So when you tell yourself people came, I can remind you they didn't." The room went still. Roman's face closed. For a moment Ella regretted saying it. Then he spoke. "People do not come to men like me out of love. What do they come for? Orders, money, protection, fear. And that is enough. It has been." Ella looked around the room, at the untouched chair beside the bed, at the silent phone, at the glass walls with the city spread beneath them like a kingdom too far away to touch. "Doesn't look like enough from here." Roman's mouth tightened. "You speak boldly for someone who can be replaced by noon." Ella felt the words strike, but she did not let them move her face. "That would be impressive," she said. "The agency barely answers before 10. His stare was sharp. "You think humor makes disrespect safer?" "No. I think disrespect with no humor makes people unbearable." For a heartbeat the room almost softened. Then his phone rang. Both of them looked at it. Caleb. Roman watched the screen until it went dark. Ella said nothing. It rang again. Roman did not answer. On the third call he turned the phone off and placed it beneath the pillow like a man hiding a weapon. "Why won't you pick up?" Ella asked. "Because I know what he wants." "What does he want?" Roman closed his eyes. "Proof." "Proof of what?" "That I am weaker than he hoped." Ella stood there with the empty cup in her hand. Outside, clouds moved over the river, dulling the city's light. "Maybe he wants to help." Roman opened his eyes. The look he gave her was not cruel. It was older than cruelty. "You still believe people mean what they say?" "No," Ella said. "I just don't think everyone is lying all the time. That is because you have not listened carefully enough." She left the room before she answered in a way that would cost her the job. In the kitchen, she washed the cup harder than necessary. She was angry at him, angry at his pride, his suspicion, his ability to turn even fear into an insult. But beneath that anger was something worse. Pity. She hated feeling pity for him. Pity made people careless. It made them forget the difference between a wounded man and a safe one. Roman Maddox might have been sick, but he was still Roman Maddox. A man like that did not become harmless because his lungs rattled. Still, when she heard him coughing again, she was already moving. By the fourth day of Roman's illness, the penthouse had become a place of two worlds. In one world, Caleb's name traveled through restaurants, back rooms, construction offices, and private calls with increasing ease. He chaired meetings with Roman's captains at the Garden District restaurant and sat at the head of the table as if he had been born there. He did not claim the throne. He simply kept the chair warm. That was what he told them. The men believed him because it was easier than choosing doubt. In the other world, Ella changed sweat, soaked sheets, monitored fever, opened windows for air. Roman complained about and cooked food he insulted before eating. At times he was unbearable. At times he was silent for hours. At times, fever loosened something in him, and he spoke like a man answering questions from another room. On the sixth evening, Ella found him sitting in the dark. The city lights reflected across the glass, cutting his face into pieces. "You should turn on a lamp," she said. "No. You like sitting in the dark, I like knowing what can see me." Ella paused at the doorway. "That sounds lonely. It sounds practical. Same thing sometimes." He did not answer. She came in with a bowl of rice and chicken. He looked at it. "I am tired of soup." "Good. This is not soup. It is close enough. You are welcome." "I did not thank you," I noticed. He took the bowl anyway. She sat in the chair near the door, not too close. Her feet ached. Her back hurt. She had already cleaned 2 other apartments that morning before coming here unpaid because the agency had cut her extra hours again. She should have gone home. She should have eaten dinner from a can and studied anatomy until her eyes blurred. Instead, she was watching a Mafia king push rice around a bowl like a stubborn child. Roman noticed her exhaustion. "You look tired." "So do you." "I am ill. I work for rich people. Same effect." His eyes moved to her face. "You resent them. I resent being invisible until something is dirty." He looked down at the bowl. "Visibility is overrated. That is something only visible people say." The words slipped out quietly. Not anger. Truth. Roman absorbed them. Outside, a siren wailed faintly and faded toward the river. "My mother used to say something like that," he said. Ella did not move. Roman's gaze stayed on the bowl. She hated this life. Not the money. The money helped. She hated what it required from men. My father told her she had soft hands. She told him soft hands still know when they are holding a knife. His voice changed around the memory. Less guarded. Ella waited. "What happened to her?" she asked. Roman's jaw worked once. "Stroke. Fast. I was in a meeting when the hospital called. I'm sorry." He gave a humorless breath. "People say that when there is nothing to fix. Sometimes that is why they say it." He looked at her then. For once there was no threat in his eyes. Just weariness. "I did not go when she called the first time." Ella said nothing. She had headaches for weeks. Said something felt wrong. "I sent a doctor to the house. I sent flowers. I sent money. I sent everything except myself." The room held that confession carefully. Ella understood some grief did not want advice. It wanted a witness. After a while she said, "My mother died because we waited too long." Roman's eyes stayed on her. "Infection," Ella said. "Started small. She kept saying she was fine because we didn't have money for bills. By the time my grandmother took her in, it had spread. I remember the doctor's face when he realized how old I was, like he wished I had waited in the hall." Her voice remained steady. She had told the story before. That did not make it easier. It only made the path through it familiar. That is why Nursing Roman said, "It was not a question." Ella nodded. "That is why nursing." He set the bowl down. For a moment, the difference between them filled the room. His world had too much money and not enough presence. Hers had too little money and not enough time. Both had lost women who might have lived in a kinder version of the world. Roman leaned back against the pillows, exhausted. "You should go home, Ella." She should have. Instead, she picked up the bowl. "I will after I check your temperature." He closed his eyes. This time, he did not refuse. 2 days later, the storm season rolled back over New Orleans. The air grew thick by noon. Thunder muttered beyond the river. The sky turned a bruised green over the rooftops, and the city moved with that strange calm people have when they know weather is coming and cannot stop it. Ella arrived late because the streetcar had stalled and the rain had already begun by the time she reached the tower. Her shoes were wet. Her hair had come loose at her temples. Miles Turner, the night guard, was still at the front desk, though his shift should have ended. He stood when he saw her. "Miss Parker." "Miles." He glanced toward the private elevator. "You been checking on him?" "Yes." Miles lowered his voice. "Strange week." Ella looked at him. "What do you mean?" "People who used to come every day stopped coming. Men downstairs asking questions they already know the answers to. Mr. Caleb's assistant called this morning and told us not to disturb the 47th floor unless there's a fire." Ella felt her stomach tighten. Did Mr. Maddox say that Miles shook his head? "I have worked security for 20 years. When a man wants privacy, he says so himself." The elevator opened. Ella stepped inside. "Call me if something feels wrong," she said. Miles looked at her for a long second. "You sure you want that responsibility?" "No," she said, "but I seem to have it anyway." Upstairs, Roman was worse. She knew before she reached the bedroom. The air felt wrong. Too hot. Too still. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, both hands gripping the mattress, his body rocking slightly forward and back. Small movement. Repeated. The kind people made when pain had taken over language. "Roman." He did not look up. "Leave." "No." His fingers tightened in the sheets. "I said leave, and I said no." She moved in front of him and crouched low enough to see his face. His skin was gray beneath the fever flush. Sweat ran down his temple. His breathing had a wet crackle at the end of each exhale. Fear went through her so sharply she almost reached for him. She forced herself to stay calm. "Look at me." His eyes lifted. They were bright and unfocused. "You need a doctor." "No hospitals." "I did not say hospital. I said doctor. No family doctor." "Then someone else." "No outsiders." Ella stared at him. "Do you hear yourself?" He tried to stand. His knees failed. She caught his arm, bracing herself against the bed. For a second, his weight leaned fully into her. Heat came off him through his shirt. His breath caught near her ear. He was stronger than her, larger than her, more dangerous than any man she had ever touched. But in that instant, he was also just a human body trying not to fall. "Do not," he whispered. "Do not what?" "Do not pity me." Ella held him steady. "I am trying not to drop you." His hand gripped her shoulder. Not hard enough to hurt, hard enough to need. That was worse for him. She helped him sit again. He looked at the floor like it had betrayed him. "Your brother has not come," she said. His eyes closed. "Do not. Your lawyer has not come." "Ella." "Your men have not come." His face tightened, but she kept going because the truth had become the only tool sharp enough to cut through his pride. "The agency cut my hours. Someone told the desk not to disturb you. Someone wants this room quiet, and you are helping them by refusing every person who might keep you alive." He looked at her then, not angry, struck. For the first time, Roman Maddox seemed to understand the shape of the silence around him. It was not privacy. It was abandonment. His mouth opened, but no words came. Ella's voice softened. "I have been here every day. I have seen who came." Nobody did. The words hurt him. She could see it, not on his face. His face stayed controlled, but his eyes changed. A man could survive many things and still be undone by discovering his throne had been empty all along. "I am not asking you to trust them," Ella said. "I am asking you to trust me long enough to call someone who can help." He looked toward the window. Rain struck the glass in hard silver lines. "My father used to say, the moment a man needs saving, he belongs to whoever saved him." Your father was wrong. His eyes returned to hers. She said it plainly, without fear. Saving someone is not ownership. It is just saving someone. Roman stared at her as if she had spoken a language he had never learned. Then his strength seemed to drain all at once. His shoulders lowered. His hand released the sheets. "Who?" he asked. Ella had not expected the question. She answered carefully. "I know a doctor, Samuel Boone. He treated my grandmother once. He does not ask many questions." Roman's eyes closed. "No, you just asked who, and I changed my mind. Then change it back." A weak, bitter smile touched his mouth and vanished. "You are impossible." "No, you are used to people being easier." His breathing caught. He coughed hard into his fist. When he pulled his hand away, there was blood. "Not much. Enough." Ella's face must have changed because Roman closed his fingers quickly. "Do not look at me like that." "Like what?" "Like I am dying." She took the towel from the nightstand and pressed it into his hand. "Then stop making it so hard to argue." He laughed once. It turned into another cough. She stayed until it passed. That evening she made him broth and forced him to drink half. She changed his shirt while he sat with his eyes turned away, humiliated by the intimacy of weakness. She stripped the bed, replaced the sheets, set water within reach, wrote down his temperature, checked his pulse, the way she had learned from videos and clinic pamphlets and old memory. Before she left, she stood at the bedroom door. "I am coming back tomorrow." "No," he said. "Yes. The storm will be worse. I have an umbrella." "You have no sense. I have enough." He looked at her for a long time. The room was dim. The storm flickered beyond the windows. His face, pale and sharp against the pillows, seemed both older and younger than before. "Ella." She waited. "My name is Roman." "I know." "No." His voice was low. "I mean, when you come back. Use it." Something in her chest shifted. Not affection, not yet, but recognition. A door opened an inch. "Then you drink the water, Roman." He looked at the glass, then at her. Slowly he reached for it. She watched him drink before she left. By the time Ella reached her apartment, the storm had swallowed the city. Rain hammered the roof of the old shotgun house. Water ran down the windows in trembling sheets. Her clothes clung to her skin. She locked the door, changed into dry sweatpants, and sat on the edge of her bed without turning on the lamp. Her room smelled faintly of detergent and old wood. On the milk crate beside the mattress, her nursing textbook lay open to a chapter on respiratory infection. She stared at the diagram of lungs until the lines blurred. She thought of Roman's breath. Wet, shallow, wrong. She thought of Caleb's smile, of the quiet phone, of the way Roman had said his own name not like an order, but like an offering. At 1:45 in the morning, her phone rang. Ella opened her eyes before the second buzz. Miles Turner's name glowed on the screen. She answered. His voice came through tight and low. "Miss Parker, I'm sorry. There's been an alert from the penthouse." Ella sat up. "What happened?" "I went up. Doors locked. I can hear him inside." Thunder cracked over New Orleans. Miles breathed once, then said, "He's on the floor again." Ella was already standing before Miles finished the sentence. The room around her came into focus all at once. The nursing textbook open beside her pillow, the damp clothes hanging over the chair, the envelope of school money tucked beneath a loose floorboard, rain beating against the window so hard it sounded like a fist. She pressed the phone tighter to her ear. "Did you call Caleb?" "I called his assistant," Miles said. "She said he is unavailable." Ella closed her eyes. Unavailable. The word had become a wall people hid behind. "What about Mr. Voss?" Same as before. "He told me to handle it locally." "Handle it locally?" Her voice came out colder than she expected. "He is a lawyer, not a priest, giving last rites." Miles did not laugh. "I called one of the captains, too. Went to voicemail." Ella was already pulling on jeans. "Can you get inside?" "The private elevator is locked from the residence side. His key card is active, but the door chain is on. I can hear him. Miss Parker, he is breathing, but it sounds bad." She grabbed her coat. "Stay there. I can call 911. Ella froze with one hand on the door. In a normal world, that would have been the answer, but Roman Maddox did not live in a normal world. Hospitals meant police questions. Police questions meant names, records, old wounds reopening in places where powerful men kept them buried. Roman had refused hospitals even while fever burned through him. A forced ambulance might save his body and destroy whatever remained of his trust. Still, pride would not matter if he stopped breathing. "If he goes quiet, call 911, Ella said. "If his lips are blue, call 911. If you think he is slipping away before I get there, call 911 and let him hate us alive." Miles breathed out. "Yes, ma'am." Ella ended the call and stood in the dark for 1 second. She thought of Roman telling her to get out. She thought of Caleb's clean smile in the bathroom doorway. She thought of the empty soup bowl. She thought of Roman saying his name like he was handing her something fragile. Then she opened the door and stepped into the storm. The ride across New Orleans felt unreal. The driver was an older woman with silver braids and gospel music playing low through the speakers. She glanced at Ella in the rearview mirror but asked no questions. The streets shone black under the rain. Stoplights blinked red over empty intersections. Water rushed along the curbs, carrying leaves, cigarette butts, and pieces of the city no one had bothered to pick up. Ella sat forward, one hand gripping her phone, the other pressed against her knee to keep it from bouncing. Roman was not her family. He was not her friend. He was not even kind. But none of that changed the fact that his breath had sounded wrong. None of it changed the memory of his hand gripping the sheet while his body betrayed him. None of it changed what her mother had taught her by dying too soon. When someone is slipping away, you do not stand at the edge and ask whether they deserve a hand. You reach. The car stopped outside Roman's tower. Ella paid before the driver could pull fully to the curb, then ran through the rain with her hood falling back and her shoes splashing through cold water. Miles was waiting in the lobby. He looked different out from behind the desk. Bigger, tenser. One hand rested on the radio at his belt, and his eyes had the strained look of a man who had heard something through a door and could not forget it. This way. They took the private elevator up together. The ride was silent except for the faint mechanical hum and Ella's breathing. She watched the floor numbers climb. 39, 40, 41. Her reflection in the elevator wall looked pale and young and frightened. She hated that. At the 47th floor, the doors opened into a narrow private foyer. The main door to the penthouse stood closed. Miles had already removed the chain with a bolt cutter. It hung broken against the wood like a small confession. Ella pushed inside. The penthouse was dark. Not peaceful dark. Empty dark. The lights were off. The curtains were half drawn. The air smelled of fever and rain and something metallic beneath it. A glass had shattered near the hallway. Water spread across the marble from where Roman must have dropped it. Roman. A sound came from beyond the bedroom. Not an answer. A breath. Wet. Fast. Failing. Ella followed it. She found him in the hall between the bedroom and bathroom, curled on his side with one hand pressed against his chest. His cheek rested against the marble. His shirt was soaked through. His skin had gone gray under the fever flush, and his lips carried a faint blue shadow at the edges. For 1 second, Ella forgot how to move. Then training she did not yet have but had always wanted took over. She dropped to her knees beside him. Roman, look at me. His eyes opened halfway. It took him a moment to find her. You came back, he whispered. The words were barely there. She swallowed. I told you I would. His mouth moved. Shouldn't have. Probably not. She touched his forehead and felt a heat that scared her. Miles, she called. The guard appeared at the hallway entrance. Get towels, blankets, anything warm, and bring every bottle of water you can find. Yes, ma'am. Roman tried to shift. Pain dragged a sound from his throat. Do not move, Ella said. His eyes fluttered. Ordering me now. Someone has to. She slid one hand under his head and checked his breathing as best she could. She had watched nurses do it. Count the rise. Listen for the rhythm. Watch the mouth. Watch the chest. His breaths came too fast, then caught, then came again with that wet crackle deep in his lungs. Pneumonia. The word sat in her mind like a stone. Maybe worse. She pulled her phone from her pocket and searched for the number she had saved years ago but never expected to use again. Dr. Samuel Boone answered on the 4th ring. His voice was rough with sleep. Boone. Dr. Boone, it's Ella Parker, June Parker's granddaughter. A pause. Ella, what is it I have a man here? 44. High fever for over a week. Wet cough. Blood once, maybe more. He collapsed. His breathing is shallow and crackling. Lips are turning blue. He refuses hospitals. The sleep left his voice. Address. She gave it. Does he have a pulse? Yes. Conscious, barely. Any chest pain? He keeps grabbing his ribs and chest. Keep him warm. Keep his head raised. Do not force him to walk. If he stops responding, call an ambulance, even if he threatens to buy the hospital and burn it down. Despite herself, Ella almost smiled. That sounds like him. I will be there as fast as the streets allow. The line went dead. Miles returned with blankets and towels. Ella folded a towel and slid it beneath Roman's head, then raised him slightly with pillows from the bedroom. She worked carefully, afraid to hurt him, afraid not to move fast enough. Roman watched her through fever-bright eyes. Who did you call a doctor? No. Yes. No outsiders. You lost that vote when you passed out on the floor. He tried to speak again, but coughed instead. The sound tore through him. Ella turned him slightly so he would not choke, holding a towel near his mouth. When it passed, his body shook from the force of it. There was blood on the towel, more than before. Miles saw it and looked away. Ella did not. She folded the towel and placed it aside. Roman's eyes closed. Stay with me, she said. Tired. I know. Let me sleep. No. His brow tightened. Ella. No. You can hate me in the morning. His mouth twitched almost a smile, but it died before it became one. Bossy. You noticed. While they waited, she kept talking. Not because she knew it would help, but because silence felt too close to surrender. She talked about the rain, about the driver who had gospel music playing, about Miles looking like he wanted to fight the elevator, about how Roman's kitchen was stocked with food nobody knew how to make comforting. She told him he had the most useless, expensive pillows in Louisiana. She told him if he survived, she was throwing away every decorative towel in his bathroom, because towels that could not dry anything had no moral purpose. Roman drifted in and out. Sometimes his eyes opened. Sometimes he answered with a breath. Once he whispered Caleb Ella's hand stilled on the blanket. No. His eyes closed again. She did not know whether that comforted him or broke something further inside him. Dr. Boone arrived 31 minutes later carrying an old brown medical bag and wearing a raincoat over flannel pajama pants, as if the emergency had interrupted not sleep, but patience. He was tall and thin, with dark skin, gray hair cut close to his head, and eyes that had seen enough human suffering to stop being impressed by wealth. He stepped into the penthouse, looked once at the marble, the glass, the river view, then dropped to his knees beside Roman without a word about any of it. "Light," he said. Miles moved fast. Ella turned on the hall lamp. Dr. Boone checked Roman's pulse, pressed a stethoscope to his back, listened to his lungs, took his blood pressure, and clipped a pulse oximeter to his finger. His face did not change. That scared Ella more than if it had. "How bad?" she asked. "Bad." Roman's eyes opened. "Still here," he rasped. Dr. Boone glanced at him. "Barely. Try not to be proud about it." Roman blinked as if no doctor had spoken to him that way in his life. Dr. Boone turned back to Ella. "Severe pneumonia, likely both lungs, possible sepsis. His oxygen is low. Blood pressure is lower than I want. He needs hospital care." Roman's hand moved weakly. "No." Dr. Boone ignored him. "He needs IV antibiotics, fluids, oxygen if we can get it, and monitoring through the night. I can start treatment here, but if he gets worse, ambulance." No debate. Roman tried to focus on Ella. His eyes found hers. There was no command in them now, only a question he was too weak to ask. Ella understood with a heaviness in her chest. For days he had refused everyone, but now on the floor with death close enough to touch, he was letting her decide. She looked at Dr. Boone. "Start here. If he drops again, we call 911. Dr. Boone nodded once. "Good." Roman's eyes stayed on Ella. "You always this stubborn," he whispered. She leaned closer. "Only when men make it necessary." Dr. Boone worked with calm speed. He started an IV in Roman's arm, hanging the bag from a tall floor lamp, because nothing in the penthouse had been designed for saving lives. Miles brought a toolkit and duct tape. Ella held the flashlight steady while Dr. Boone prepared antibiotics. The hallway became a field clinic beneath crystal lighting. Roman Maddox, who had spent his life bending rooms around his will, lay on the floor while a retired doctor in wet shoes fought to keep him breathing. Ella saw the poetry of it. She did not have time to feel it. "Ella," Dr. Boone said, "I need clean towels, a bowl, and warm water." She rose quickly and went toward the kitchen. On the way back, she passed Roman's study. The door was open. That alone made her pause. Roman kept that room closed, always. Even when she cleaned, he stood inside or left specific instructions. The study was not simply a room. It was a vault with bookshelves. Tonight, the desk lamp was on. Papers lay scattered across the leather surface. That was wrong. Roman Maddox did not scatter papers. Ella stepped closer, holding the bowl of warm water. She meant only to turn away after one glance. But then she saw Caleb's initials. "CM cannot have access." The words were written on a yellow legal pad in Roman's precise hand. Underneath were other phrases she did not fully understand but understood enough to fear. Emergency transfer authority, power of attorney, holding company restructure. Bank signatory change. Port contract assignment. Do not sign while incapacitated. Ella's skin went cold. The study seemed to narrow around her. She could hear Dr. Boone in the hallway telling Roman to breathe slowly. She could hear rain against the glass. She could hear her own heartbeat. She looked at the papers, then toward the elevator. Caleb had access to this building. Caleb had already walked in once while Roman lay helpless. Caleb had already looked at his brother on a bathroom floor and decided not to call a doctor. Ella did not know corporate law. She did not know Roman's empire, but she knew paperwork could destroy a life. She had seen landlords use signatures to force families out. She had seen hospital bills become weapons. She had seen men in clean shirts take everything from people who did not understand what they were signing. Roman was unconscious. The papers were exposed. The people who should have protected him were not coming. Her phone had 12% battery. Dr. Boone called. Water. She set the bowl down on the edge of the desk, pulled out her phone, and began taking photos. One page, then another. Every signature line, every paragraph, every sticky note. She moved fast, but carefully, making sure the images were clear. Her fingers shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. The battery dipped to 10, then 9. She kept going. When she finished, she placed each paper exactly as she had found it. She picked up the bowl, wiped the place where one drop of water had touched the desk, and returned to the hallway. Dr. Boone looked up. Everything all right? Ella met his eyes. No, she thought. Yes, she said. The next hours stretched thin. Roman's fever climbed before it fell. His breathing worsened, then steadied, then worsened again. Dr. Boone checked his lungs every half hour. Miles stayed near the foyer, ready to call an ambulance if told. The storm shook the tower until the windows trembled in their frames. At 3:20, Roman became restless. His hand moved against the blanket. His eyes opened, but did not seem to see the hall. Mother, he whispered. Ella looked at Dr. Boone. The doctor's face softened without becoming sentimental. Fever talking. Roman's breathing hitched. Don't call him, he murmured. Don't call Caleb. Ella leaned close. No one is calling Caleb. His hand found her wrist. His grip was weak but desperate. He'll take it. The words were so faint she almost missed them. What, he'll take everything? Ella looked toward the dark mouth of the study. I know, she whispered. Roman's eyes moved under his lids, trapped in some fevered place between memory and fear. Dr. Boone adjusted the IV. He needs to calm down. Ella placed her free hand over Roman's. Roman, listen to me. I am here. Dr. Boone is here. Miles is outside. Nobody is taking anything tonight. His grip tightened once, then loosened. By 4:30, the first antibiotic had gone in. Fluids followed. Roman's pulse steadied enough for Dr. Boone to let out a slow breath through his nose. He is not safe, the doctor said quietly. But he is less close to dying than he was an hour ago. Ella sat back against the wall. Only then did she realize her whole body ached. Doctor. Boone packed part of his bag but left supplies lined neatly along the hallway table. I am staying until dawn, he said. After that I will come back. If he worsens, we do not ask permission. We call an ambulance. Ella nodded. Roman's eyes opened. His voice was paper-thin. You should go home. Ella looked at him. I should. He breathed shallowly. But you won't. No. A silence settled between them, different from the others. Not empty, not hostile. Filled with everything neither of them knew how to say. Roman stared at the ceiling. I was cruel to you. Ella did not soften the truth. Yes. His throat moved. I do not know how to be weak. You are doing a terrible job." The corner of his mouth moved, a small, broken, almost laugh. Then his face tightened with pain. "Why did you come back?" Ella looked at his hand, the IV line taped against skin that had seemed untouchable only weeks ago. "Because cruelty is not a reason to let someone die." His eyes shifted to her. "That simple no," she said. "But simple things are not always easy." He closed his eyes. For a moment she thought he had fallen asleep. Then he whispered, "You should have left me." Ella's chest hurt. Maybe everyone else thought that too. His eyes opened again. She regretted it the second she said it, but Roman did not look angry. He looked like the sentence had found the wound and pressed. Outside, thunder rolled farther away. The storm was moving on. Near dawn, Dr. Boone helped Ella and Miles move Roman from the hallway to the bed. It took time. Roman tried to help and failed. The failure humiliated him more than the illness. Ella could feel it in the way he went rigid when she supported his back, in the way he turned his face from Miles, in the way he stared at the ceiling after they settled him under clean sheets. Dr. Boone wrote instructions on a page from Roman's own legal pad. Medication times, temperature checks, fluids, breathing changes, warning signs. He handed the page to Ella, not to Roman. Roman noticed. So did she. "He will argue," Dr. Boone said. "I know. He will say he is fine before he is fine. I know. He will try to stand too soon. I know." Roman's eyes opened. "I am in the room." Dr. Boone put on his raincoat. "Then listen from it." Miles hid a smile badly. Ella walked Dr. Boone to the elevator. Before he stepped in, he turned to her. "You did well tonight." She looked down. "I was scared." "Good. Fear means you knew it mattered. You worked anyway." She said nothing. His gaze sharpened in the way old doctors had seeing the bruise beneath the skin. "This man's world is not gentle, Ella." "I know." "No," he said. "You know he is dangerous. That is not the same as knowing his world will punish you for being useful." She thought of the photos on her phone. "I know enough." Dr. Boone studied her a moment longer, then nodded. "Call me before your pride gets as stupid as his." The elevator closed. Ella returned to the bedroom. Roman was awake. The room had begun to fill with pale morning light. Beyond the glass, New Orleans looked washed clean and innocent, which it never was. Water clung to the windows. The river moved under a low sky. Roman watched her cross the room. "You called Boone because of your grandmother." Ella stopped beside the chair. "Yes, he saved her." For a while, Roman absorbed that. "Then I owe him. You owe him by taking the medicine. I owe you more." Ella looked away. She did not want that sentence. Debt was Roman's language. It was how his world tied people together and called it loyalty. She wanted no part of being another name in his book. "You do not owe me." His eyes darkened with something like frustration. "That is not how this works. It is how this works with me." He studied her, too weak to argue properly, strong enough to dislike being denied. "What do you want, Ella? Right now." "Yes, for you to drink water. Stop trying to die and let me change that towel under your head." His mouth twitched again. "You ask very little." "No," she said, reaching for the glass. "I ask for the thing men like you find hardest." "What is that?" She held the straw to his lips. "Cooperation." He looked at her for a long second. Then he drank. By afternoon, the fever had not broken, but it had stopped climbing. Dr. Boone returned with more supplies and a portable oxygen tank borrowed from a clinic that asked no questions. Roman hated the nasal cannula. Ella told him it was either that or an ambulance. He wore it. The hours became a rhythm. Temperature, water, medicine, rest, cough, breath, again. Ella moved through the penthouse in quiet circles, keeping the house from collapsing around the sick room. She washed towels, changed sheets, wiped sweat from Roman's face, heated broth, counted pills, checked the IV, answered calls from nobody important, and ignored calls from numbers she recognized. Caleb called 5 times. She did not answer. At sunset, Roman woke and saw his phone on the table beyond his reach. Who called? Ella wrung out a cloth in warm water. Your brother. How many times? Enough. You answered, no. Good. The answer came too quickly. Ella looked at him. Roman's eyes stayed on the ceiling. He knows, he said. Knows what? That if I live, the chair is not his. Ella thought of the photographs again. Then live. He turned his head toward her. Rain clouds were breaking beyond the windows. Gold light spread across the floor, touching the edge of the bed. The IV stand the ruined towel, the man inside the legend. You make it sound simple. No, Ella said. I make it sound necessary. Roman held her gaze. Something passed between them, then quiet and unsettling. Not romance. Not yet. It was too raw for that. It was recognition. 2 people from different worlds standing over the same truth. His life had been built on control. Hers had been built on endurance. In that room, neither was enough alone. He closed his eyes. Stay until I sleep. Ella sat in the chair beside his bed. I am here. His breathing slowly evened. For the first time in days, Roman Maddox slept without his hand clenched into a fist. Ella stayed awake beside him, her phone heavy in her pocket, holding images that could burn whatever Caleb had begun to build in the silence. By the 7th day after the storm, Roman Maddox could sit up without the room spinning. That was what he called recovery. Dr. Boone called it arrogance with a pulse. The fever had broken 2 mornings earlier, leaving Roman pale thinner and furious with the weakness that remained. He moved through the penthouse like a wounded animal, pretending the wound was gone. Every step cost him. Every breath still sounded slightly rough. But his eyes had returned to themselves dark and watchful, and the silence around him no longer felt empty. It felt like he was listening. Ella noticed the change before anyone else could have. Roman spoke less, but he watched more. He did not bark orders when she entered the room. He did not turn his face away when she handed him medicine. Once, when she refilled his water, he said thank you so quietly she almost thought she had imagined it. She did not smile. That would have wounded him. She simply said, You are welcome, and went back to folding towels. The phone calls had not stopped. Caleb called every morning and every evening, always from a different number after Ella stopped letting the first ones ring. Graham Voss left 2 careful messages asking for a private conversation. A captain named Russo asked whether Mr. Maddox wanted Thursday's business brought to the garden district as usual. As usual. Ella heard that phrase from the kitchen and looked toward the bedroom. Roman heard it too. His hand closed around the glass on the nightstand. Who said that, he asked. Ella stood in the doorway with the phone in her hand. Russo. Roman's face did not change. What exactly did he say? He asked if you wanted Thursday's business brought to the garden district as usual. The quiet that followed was very calm. That made it dangerous. Roman held out his hand for the phone. Ella brought it to him. He pressed redial. Russo answered on the 2nd ring. Mr. Maddox. The relief in the man's voice was too quick. Where is Thursday's meeting held? Roman asked. A pause. The garden district, sir. Since when? Another pause. Since last week. Who moved it? Russo's breathing changed. Your brother said you needed rest. Roman looked at the window. The Mississippi moved gray beneath the afternoon sky. My brother says many things. Sir, we thought it was temporary. We... The single word landed like a knife point. Russo said nothing. Roman ended the call. Ella stood near the door, still holding the folded towel she had forgotten to place in the closet. "Do you want to sit down?" she asked. "I am sitting. You are sitting like you were about to get up and do something stupid." His eyes moved to her. A week earlier, that sentence would have earned her dismissal, maybe worse. Now Roman only looked tired. "How much did you hear while I was sick?" he asked. "Enough. That is not an answer. It is the safest one." His mouth tightened, but there was no anger in it. "You do not have to be safe with me." Ella almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because he believed he could make that true just by saying it. "Roman," she said gently, "you are still learning how not to scare the people helping you." He looked away first. That was answer enough. The private elevator opened at 3:17 that afternoon. Ella was in the kitchen washing a cup when the sound came through the penthouse. She turned off the water. Roman was standing near the glass wall in the sitting room, one hand resting lightly on the back of a chair. He had insisted on wearing dark trousers and a white shirt, though the top button remained open and his skin still held the pale cast of illness. He did not look surprised by the elevator. That meant he had expected it. Caleb Maddox stepped into the penthouse as if he had never been unwelcome anywhere in his life. Two men came with him. Ella did not recognize either one. That was the first wrong thing. Roman's men had a look not identical, but familiar. These men carried themselves differently. They watched Caleb before they watched Roman. Their loyalty had already chosen a side. Caleb wore a navy suit and a pale shirt, no tie. His hair was perfect. His smile was careful. "Roman," he said, spreading his arms slightly. "You look better than the rumors." Roman did not move from the window, whose rumors Caleb's smile held. Concern travels fast. So does ambition. The two men behind Caleb shifted. "Not much." "Enough." Caleb glanced at them, then back at Roman. "Can we speak privately?" "We are." Caleb's eyes slid toward the kitchen. Ella picked up a towel and dried her hands. She could feel his attention settle on her like oil. "Without household staff?" Caleb said. Roman turned then. Slowly. "She stays." For 1 second, Caleb looked genuinely surprised. Then amusement covered it. "She stays," he repeated. "Interesting." Roman's voice remained flat. "Explain Thursday." Caleb sighed like a man dealing with an unreasonable patient. "You were sick. Meetings were delayed. People got nervous. I moved them somewhere practical. You moved them to your restaurant." "Our restaurant. Mine." Caleb's smile thinned. "There it is." Roman took 1 step away from the window. Ella saw the effort it cost him. Caleb saw it too. His eyes dropped briefly to Roman's unsteady hand and came back sharper. "You should be in bed," Caleb said. "You should have come when I was on the floor." The sentence cut through every performance in the room. Caleb's face stilled. "I did come. You looked at me. You left. No doctor came. You refused doctors. I was delirious. You have refused doctors your entire life." Roman's gaze did not move. "You were called again the night I collapsed." Caleb lifted one shoulder. "My assistant handled the call. Your assistant told security you were unavailable. I was in a meeting. I was dying." Silence. Ella stood near the sink, every muscle tight. Caleb looked at his brother for a long moment, and the smile finally disappeared. "What do you want me to say, Roman?" "That I panicked. I did not. That I cried in the hallway. I did not. That I became some soft-handed version of family because your lungs decided to fail. That was never us." Roman's face hardened. "No. That was never us." Caleb stepped closer. "What I did was keep the business alive. I answered calls. I calmed captains. I kept contracts from falling apart. I protected everything while you were lying in that bed telling the world to leave you alone. You protected yourself. I protected the name. You moved men into your pocket. I moved men toward stability. You changed access protocols. Because the top floor went silent. You told the building not to disturb me. Caleb's eyes flashed. You needed rest. Roman's voice dropped. I needed help. The words seemed to surprise even him. They sat in the room like something forbidden. Caleb saw the opening and hated it. Help, he said softly. From who? Her Ella felt the shift before he turned toward her. Roman did too. Careful, Roman said. Caleb laughed once. It was ugly because it still sounded charming. No, I think this is exactly where the conversation belongs. He looked at Ella fully now. Miss Parker, is it? Ella met his eyes. Yes, the loyal maid, the only one who stayed. The woman with soup and towels and perfect timing. Roman's hand tightened on the chair. Caleb. But Caleb did not stop. How touching it must have been. My brother weak. Alone. Frightened maybe for the first time in his life. And there you were, walking in and out of his bedroom, hearing things, seeing things becoming necessary. Ella kept her voice calm. I took care of a sick man. Caleb smiled. Of course you did. The words made her skin crawl. Roman stepped forward. Do not speak to her like that. Caleb's eyes snapped back to him. Why? Because she is special now. Because she held a glass to your mouth and suddenly she belongs in family business. She was in the room when family was not. That struck Caleb harder than a shout would have. His face flushed. You want to talk about family, fine. I spent 20 years being useful while you stood in the light. I built the construction side. I kept the inspectors happy. I handled councilmen who would not take your calls because you scared them too much. I fixed problems you never even bothered to learn about. Roman watched him. Caleb's voice rose. And every time I walked into a room, they looked past me for you. Every time I closed a deal, they said Roman must be pleased. Every man at every table waited to see if Big Brother approved. His composure was cracking now, and through the crack came something old and poisoned. You made me your shadow, and then acted shocked when I learned how to move in the dark. Roman was quiet. For a moment, Ella saw not a villain, but a boy who had grown into a man around one wound and called it destiny. Then Caleb looked back at her, and the wound turned cruel. But you, he said. You saw your chance. A girl with no money, no family in the city, no future except cleaning up after people who never remember her name. Then the great Roman Maddox falls, and suddenly you are the only person he trusts. Ella's throat tightened. She said nothing. Caleb stepped closer to the kitchen. How much did you think it was worth? A check. An apartment tuition. Maybe a ring someday. If you played helpless and pure long enough. Roman moved so fast, Ella almost forgot he was still weak. He crossed half the room before his body betrayed him. His balance faltered. One hand caught the edge of the dining chair. Ella moved instinctively, but he lifted his palm without looking at her. Not to reject help, to tell her he could stand for this. He straightened. His face was pale, but his eyes were deadly calm. You will not look at her again, Roman said. Caleb turned back toward him. You cannot be serious. You will not speak to her. You will not say her name. You will not drag your filth across the only person in this city who cared whether I lived through the night. Caleb's jaw tightened. She is manipulating you. No, Roman said. That is what frightens you. She is not. The room went still. Roman came closer, each step controlled and painful. She asked for nothing. Not money, not access, not protection. She called a doctor when you hid behind an assistant. She sat beside me while fever took my mind. She kept me alive with water and medicine and more courage than I have seen in men who carry guns for a living. Caleb's face twisted. "You sound pathetic." "I was pathetic," Roman said. "I was on the floor and my brother was measuring the curtains for his coronation." Caleb's eyes went cold. "That is not what happened." "Then deny it." Caleb said nothing. Roman held his stare. "Deny that you moved meetings. Deny that you redirected contracts. Deny that you told security I was not to be disturbed. Deny that you looked at my illness and saw an opening." A long silence. Caleb's voice came out low. "I prepared for what had to happen." Roman's expression did not change, but something in him closed. Our mother would have called that betrayal. Caleb flinched as if struck. "Do not bring her into this. You left me to die and you want her name protected from the room." Caleb's face went white. One of the men behind him shifted again, hand near his jacket. Roman did not look at him. "If he reaches, Roman said he dies before he clears leather." The man froze. Ella had not seen anyone draw a gun. She did not know where Roman's was. She did not want to know. But the certainty in his voice turned the room into stone. Caleb raised one hand. "Enough. We are not doing this in front of the maid." Roman looked at him with something colder than anger. "She is the reason there is still a man here for you to betray." Caleb's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time since entering, he seemed unsure. Roman pointed toward the elevator. "Get out." Caleb stared at him. "This is not over." "No," Roman said. "It is finally honest." Caleb gave Ella one last look before he left. Not a threat spoken aloud. Something worse. A promise without words. Roman saw it. So did Ella. The elevator doors closed. The penthouse fell into a silence so complete that Ella could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator. Roman stood in the center of the room, breathing through the cost of what he had just done. His face had gone gray again. His fingers trembled at his side. Ella crossed the room. "You need to sit." "I know." That answer frightened her more than refusal. She took his arm. This time, he let her. His weight leaned into her for only a moment before he lowered himself into the chair near the window. He closed his eyes, jaw tight. "You should not have heard that," he said. "I hear many things people think I should not." His eyes opened. "I am beginning to understand that." She brought him water. He took it with both hands. "You defended me," she said. "Yes." "You did not have to." His eyes met hers. "Yes, Ella. I did." There was no romance in the words. Not yet. They were heavier than romance. They were recognition. A man who had used power all his life had finally used it to stand between cruelty and someone who had no shield. Ella looked away first. The moment was too much. "I need to check the laundry," she said. "No, you do not." "No," she admitted. "But I need a minute." He nodded. "Take it." In the laundry room, Ella braced both hands on the machine and breathed. Her hands were shaking now that no one could see. Caleb's words had found every hidden bruise. No money, no family in the city, no future except cleaning. Men like Caleb knew how to aim. They found the place where pride was thinnest and pressed there with polished fingers. She wanted to cry. She refused. Not because crying was weakness, but because he did not deserve proof that he had reached her. When she returned to the hallway, Roman was gone from the chair. Her stomach dropped. "Roman, in here!" His voice came from the study. She found him standing behind the desk, one hand flat on the leather surface, staring at the papers spread before him. The room looked nearly as it had that storm night. Desk lamp glowing, legal pad open, folders stacked. But Roman's attention was fixed on one thing, a page slightly out of alignment. "These were moved," he said. Ella stepped into the doorway. "Yes." He looked up sharply. "You knew." "Yes." His eyes became unreadable. When the night Dr. Boone came. Roman's hand remained on the desk. What did you do? Ella took her phone from her pocket. For a second, she held it against her palm, feeling the weight of the choice again. Then she opened the folder of photographs and placed the phone on the desk. Roman did not touch it at first. He only looked at the screen. The first image showed the yellow legal pad. CM cannot have access. His gaze lifted to hers. You photographed them. Every page I could. Why? Because you were unconscious. Your brother had access. The papers were out. I did not know what everything meant, but I knew the shape of it. The shape of it, he repeated. People taking things from someone who could not stop them. Roman picked up the phone and began scrolling. One photo, then another. His face changed with each image. Suspicion came first. It had to. That was how he survived. Then recognition. Then something like shock. Finally, a grief so deep and quiet that Ella almost wished she had not seen it. These are emergency transfer documents, he said. Holding companies, port assignments, voting rights, bank signatory changes. I guessed some of that. If Caleb got these signed while I was incapacitated, he could restructure control through the legal side. He would not need to kill me. He could bury me alive inside my own paperwork. Ella said nothing. Roman stared at the phone. Did you send these to anyone? No. Copy them, no. Why not? She looked at him. Because they were not mine. That seemed to confuse him more than if she had admitted theft. He placed the phone carefully on the desk. Ella. She waited. You understand what you did? I protected papers. You protected an empire. I protected a sick man from being robbed. His eyes moved over her face, slowly, as if seeing her required him to rearrange the world. He had spent his life surrounded by men who claimed loyalty while calculating price. He had built systems to test obedience, to buy silence, to punish betrayal. And this woman, this maid he had dismissed, had understood the danger in one glance and acted without permission, without payment, without asking how it might benefit her. His voice was low when he spoke again. What do you want? Ella frowned. What? For this. For everything. Name it. There it was. The old Roman. Not cruel this time, not insulting, but still trapped in the only language he trusted. Debt. Exchange. Price. Ella felt disappointment move through her before she could stop it. You think I want something. I think everyone wants something. That must be exhausting. His jaw tightened. Do not make this poetic. You saved my life. You protected documents worth more than this building. If you want money, ask. If you want school done. If you want a home protection, a new job, I can make it happen. No. He stopped. No, no. You have not heard the terms. I heard enough. Roman stared at her. Ella, do not be proud for the sake of being proud. Her eyes sharpened. You do not know the difference between pride and dignity because you keep trying to purchase both. The words hit him. She stepped closer to the desk. I did not do this so you would owe me. I did not stay because I saw a way out of my life. I did not call Dr. Boone because I wanted your gratitude. I did it because leaving someone helpless is wrong. Roman said nothing. If you pay me for that, you turn it into something smaller. You turn me into something smaller. His voice lowered. That is not my intention. I know. That is why I am telling you before you do it anyway. A long silence opened between them. Beyond the study windows, the late afternoon light bent across the river. Roman stood in it, one hand still near the phone, looking for the right response and finding none. Nobody refused him like this. Not cleanly, not calmly, not without fear. Finally, he nodded once. "All right," Ella studied him. "All right? You want nothing. I want you to stop saying it like it is impossible. It is unfamiliar. That is not the same thing." "No," he said. "It is not." He gave her the phone back. Their fingers brushed for half a second. Neither of them moved right away. Then Ella slipped the phone into her pocket and left the study before the silence could become something neither of them was ready to name. The reckoning began 2 days later. Roman did not announce it as war. He announced it as a meeting. That was his way. Clean calendar entry. Precise time. No raised voice, no explanation. Every captain was summoned to the penthouse at noon. Graham Voss was ordered to bring full records from the previous 3 weeks. The finance managers came in dark suits and nervous faces. Men from the port, men from construction, men who had carried messages, money threats, secrets. Men who had looked toward Caleb while Roman was sick and now had to look Roman in the eye. Ella was not asked to stay. She stayed anyway. Roman found her in the kitchen at 11:30 wiping the same counter for the 3rd time. "You do not have to be here. I know. This will not be pleasant. I know that too." He watched her. "You are not part of this world. I was part enough when your brother said I was." His face tightened. "That was my failure." "No," Ella said. "That was his choice." Roman looked as if he wanted to argue, then decided not to waste the gift of her distinction. "You can stay in the kitchen. If anything changes, you take the service elevator and leave. I am not running from men in suits. These men are not suits. I know what they are." He looked at her for a long moment. "Yes," he said quietly. "I think you do." The men arrived in waves. The penthouse filled with cologne leather shoes, expensive watches, and the heavy quiet of men who knew violence well enough not to perform it unnecessarily. Caleb arrived last, alone. That mattered. His eyes went first to Roman, then to the kitchen where Ella stood half-hidden near the coffee machine. He smiled at her. She looked through him. The meeting lasted nearly 4 hours. Ella did not hear every word, but she heard enough. Roman spoke in a voice that never rose, that made each sentence worse. He laid out dates, calls, meetings moved without approval, contracts redirected, access altered, emergency contacts ignored, doctors refused. Security instructed not to disturb the residents without Roman's authorization, though Roman had given no such order. Graham Voss tried once to clarify. Roman let him speak for exactly 12 seconds. Then he placed a phone record on the table. Graham did not clarify again. Caleb defended himself at first with charm, then with irritation, then with anger. "You were absent," Caleb said. "I was ill," Roman answered. "You made yourself unreachable. You made sure help did not reach me. I kept order. You prepared succession. That is what responsible leadership requires." Roman's voice became very quiet. "Leadership does not require letting your brother die." Nobody moved. Ella stood in the kitchen with her hands wrapped around a mug she had not drunk from. Roman did not mention her name. He did mention the documents. He stated that legal papers had been secured during his incapacitation by someone he trusted. He stated that any attempt to alter or execute documents during that time would be prosecuted through every legal and private channel available to him. He stated that new signatory rules had already been drafted. The room understood. Men like that always understood what was not said aloud. Caleb did too. His face went pale in a way anger could not hide. "You would threaten your own blood with prosecution?" he asked. Roman looked at him. "I am not threatening you with law, Caleb. I am offering it as the gentlest option." That ended the argument. When the meeting broke, the men left quieter than they had arrived. Some looked shaken. Some looked relieved. Some avoided Ella's eyes as they passed the kitchen. Graham left with his folder pressed to his chest. Caleb remained. For one final moment, the brothers stood across from each other in the room where power had returned to its old address, but not its old shape. "You are making a mistake," Caleb said. Roman looked tired. "Probably not my first. She will not stay." Roman's eyes did not move. "You still think this is about owning what stays?" Caleb's mouth twisted. "And you think she saved your soul?" "No," Roman said. "She saved my life. My soul is my own problem." Caleb stared at him with hatred, grief, and the terrible emptiness of a man who had lost the story that kept him alive. Then he walked to the elevator. Roman did not stop him. When the doors closed, the penthouse seemed to exhale. Ella came out of the kitchen. Roman stood near the table, one hand resting against the chair. His face was pale again, but his eyes were clear. "It is done," he said. "What is done? Caleb is removed from all operational roles. He keeps his personal assets, his apartment, his accounts, his cars. He loses authority, access, and command. Is that enough?" Roman looked toward the elevator. "No." Then he looked back at her. "But it is what I can do without becoming exactly what he believes I am." Ella nodded slowly. That answer mattered more than a harsher punishment would have. Roman sat down at the table as if his body had waited all afternoon for permission to fail. Ella brought him water without asking. He took it. "Did you tell them about the photos?" she asked. "Not your name, but they will guess. Some will." She placed the glass in front of him. "And if they do," his eyes lifted to hers, "then they will also know that any man who reaches for you reaches through me. I did not ask for protection." "No," Roman said. "You asked for nothing. That seems to be your most infuriating habit." Despite herself, she almost smiled. "I do not want to belong to your world. I know. I mean it. So do I." Their eyes held. For once, Ella believed him. Not completely, not safely, but enough for that moment. She picked up the meeting cups from the table and carried them to the sink. Roman watched her from the chair. After a while, he said, "Ella." She turned on the water. "Yes, thank you." The words were simple. No bargain attached. No offer behind them. No debt hiding underneath. Ella let the water run over her hands. "You are welcome," she said. Outside the glass walls, New Orleans carried on below them, loud and wounded and alive. Inside the penthouse, something old had ended. Something uncertain had taken its place. Spring came to New Orleans without asking permission. It slipped into the city through wet brick-warm rain, open windows, and magnolia blossoms heavy enough to perfume entire blocks. The river changed color with the sky. Brass music returned to corners after sundown. In the quarter, tourists laughed too loudly over drinks while men in linen jackets whispered business under balcony shadows. Roman Maddox returned to his office 3 weeks after the meeting, not because he was ready, because he was Roman. Ella watched him button his shirt that morning from the doorway of the bedroom, her arms crossed her face, unreadable. "You are not as healed as you think," she said. Roman adjusted the cuff at his wrist. "I am healed enough. That is what men say before they fall down in expensive shoes." He glanced at her through the mirror. "You have very little faith in me. I have excellent memory." That almost made him smile. Almost. He had changed since the fever, but not into someone soft. Ella did not trust soft changes. People could perform softness when they wanted something. Roman's change was rougher than that. Uneven. Uncomfortable. It showed in the pauses he took before speaking, as if some old cruel answer rose first, and he had to let it die before choosing another. It showed in the way he asked Miles how his wife was doing and then actually listened to the answer. It showed when a young doorman dropped Roman's keys and Roman bent to pick them up himself. The entire lobby had gone silent. Roman had looked around and said what no one answered. Ella had laughed about it later in the elevator. Roman pretended not to enjoy the sound. The business changed more slowly. Roman did not stand in front of his men and declare himself reborn. He distrusted declarations. Instead, he brought auditors into the construction company. He cut 3 port contracts tied to violence. He shut down the loan operation that had fed on restaurant owners, cab drivers, and small shopkeepers who borrowed $5,000 and paid back $20,000. The captains hated that most. Russo came to the penthouse one evening, face red, voice tight. "You pull that line, people stop fearing us." Roman sat behind his desk with a pen in his hand. "Good." Russo blinked. "Good. If fear is the only thing keeping them here, I prefer to know that now. You built this family on fear." Roman looked at him. "No. I inherited fear. I made it efficient." Russo had no answer for that. Men left after that. Not all. Enough. Some went to Baton Rouge, some disappeared into other crews. One tried to take clients with him and found doors closed across the city before he reached the parish line. Roman did not hurt him. He simply let every man know the rules had changed, and loyalty now meant something other than obedience to cruelty. That confused people more than violence ever had. Graham Voss nearly resigned when Roman established the foundation. He stood in the study with the documents in his hands, reading the language twice, as if legal words might rearrange themselves into sanity. "A clinic," Graham said. "Yes." "In the 9th Ward?" "Yes." "For uninsured patients?" "Yes." "Funded through your legitimate holdings?" Roman looked up from the desk. "I believe that is what the document says." Graham took off his glasses. "Roman, forgive me, but have you lost your mind?" Roman leaned back. "No, I misplaced it for 20 years. There is a difference." Graham stared at him. "This will be seen as weakness. By whom? Everyone. Then everyone can learn new eyesight." The foundation began without Ella's name on it. That mattered. Roman never told her it was for her. He never used her mother as a reason. He never wrapped the gift in romance. He had learned enough to understand that generosity could become another form of control if the giver stood too close to it. Still, Ella found out. She found the clinic plans on the kitchen island one evening after work. Dr. Samuel Boone's name was printed on the medical advisory board. The address was on a street she knew well, a street where women took buses across town for basic care, and men ignored pain until pain became emergency. Roman stood at the window waiting without looking like he was waiting. Ella read the first page, then the second. Then she set them down. "You did this because of me." Roman turned. "Yes." Her face tightened. "Roman. But not for you." She looked at him. He walked closer, slowly, stopping on the other side of the island. "You told me to do one good thing where it would not make you dependent on me. So I did." Ella's hand rested on the paper. "This is not small." "No. And it does not erase anything." "I know. You cannot buy forgiveness from a neighborhood." "I know. People will still remember what your men did." "They should." That answer stopped her. Roman looked tired but not defensive. There had been a time when any challenge became a battle. Now he let the truth stand in the room without trying to strangle it. "I am not asking anyone to bless my name," he said. "I am putting money where it should have gone before I learned how to turn pain into profit." Ella looked down at the plans again. Primary care, women's health, infection treatment, preventive screenings, evening hours for service workers, a small fund for nursing students administered anonymously. Her throat tightened. She thought of her mother sitting at the kitchen table saying it was only a fever. She thought of her grandmother counting pills in her palm, deciding which bill could wait. She thought of all the people who learned to endure because help felt too expensive. "You cannot put my life in a building," she said softly. Roman's voice lowered. "I am not trying to." "Then what are you doing? Trying to make sure the next girl does not lose her mother because a doctor was too far away or too expensive?" Ella closed her eyes. She hated him a little for saying the right thing. She hated him more for meaning it. When she opened her eyes, he was still across from her, giving her distance. That too was new. "I am still paying for school myself," she said. "I know, and I am not working at your clinic just because your name is on the paperwork. My name will not be on the sign." She studied him. What will be Roman looked toward the plans. Magnolia Street, Community Health. Ella traced the edge of the paper with one finger. "That is a good name. I had help." "From who? Dr. Boone?" "He said Maddox Medical sounded like a place where people would wake up missing a kidney." Ella laughed before she could stop herself. Roman smiled then truly, and the room changed around it. They began having dinner together after that. Not every night. Not by expectation. Ella made that clear. The first time she sat across from him at the long dining table in the penthouse, still wearing her work clothes. Roman had ordered food from a small Creole place instead of one of his own restaurants. The containers sat between them on the polished wood like a rebellion against silverware. Ella watched him open a box of red beans and rice. "You do know plates exist. I was told this was casual. Casual does not mean eating like a raccoon with a trust fund." Roman looked at the plastic fork in his hand. "That is very specific. You inspire specific criticism." He passed her the cornbread. They talked about ordinary things first. Weather, food, doctor, Boone's habit of insulting wealthy patients, Miles's wife expecting a baby, then books, then school, then family. Roman spoke of his mother more often now, but carefully, as if each memory had sharp edges. Ella told him about Mississippi, about summer heat and church fans, about her grandmother singing while washing dishes, about the day her mother's shoes stayed beside the bed after the ambulance left. Roman did not say he was sorry every time. He learned to sit with it. That was better. By May, Ella no longer worked for the agency. Roman did not ask her to quit. He did not offer to replace the income. She left because the agency cut her hours after Caleb's people made quiet calls, and because she was tired of being assigned to homes where women looked through her while asking if she knew how to polish silver. She picked up shifts at a neighborhood clinic instead. The pay was worse. The work mattered more. Roman said only, "Do you need anything?" Ella looked at him over her coffee. "No." He nodded. Then after a pause he said, "Can I ask again tomorrow?" "You can ask. I can still say no. I am learning that." One night near the end of May, they stood on the roof of the unfinished clinic. The building still smelled of paint sawdust and rain. Downstairs, exam rooms waited for tables. Boxes of gloves and bandages lined the hallway. Dr. Boone had left an hour earlier after arguing with a contractor about sink placement. He won. Nobody knew how to argue with a man who had once stitched gunshot wounds during hurricanes. The sky over New Orleans burned copper and violet. Ella leaned against the low wall, looking out over streets that held more stories than any penthouse view ever could. Roman stood beside her, not too close. "You are quiet," she said. "I am often quiet." "No, this is different." He looked at the city. "My brother came today." Ella turned her head. "Here outside. He did not come in." "What did he want to tell me I look ridiculous?" "Do you possibly?" She waited. Roman's hands rested on the wall, fingers loose. "He said people will not forgive me." Ella looked back at the street. "Some won't. I know. Does that scare you? Yes. The honesty came without armor. She glanced at him. He continued looking outward. It used to be easy when everyone feared me. Fear asks nothing except more fear. This is harder. What is this? He breathed in, slow, trying to become someone who can live with himself when the room is empty. Ella felt those words settle between them. Below, a car rolled past, playing music through open windows. Somewhere, a woman called a child inside. The city smelled of rainwater, fried food, and warm pavement. Roman turned to her. I need to ask you something. Ella's chest tightened, though his voice held no command. Ask. He did not step closer. That mattered. I do not want to pay your tuition. Her eyebrow lifted. That is a surprising opening. I want to, but I will not. Good. I do not want to buy your time. I do not want to make your future easier in a way that makes it less yours. I do not want to become another man who calls control protection. Ella said nothing. Roman's eyes stayed on hers. I want to stand beside you without making you smaller. The wind moved between them. Ella looked at him, at this man who had once filled rooms with fear and now stood afraid of her answer. And what are you asking for? His voice lowered. Permission to love you. The city seemed to quiet. Not because it did, because Ella did. Roman continued each word careful. Not as a debt. Not as a reward. Not because you saved me. Not because I think love makes me clean. I am asking because when I am with you, I do not want to be obeyed. I want to be honest. I want to be better even when you are not watching. Ella looked away before his face could become too much. I am not your redemption story. No, I am not proof that you changed. No, I am not moving into your penthouse and becoming some pretty woman people whisper about. A faint smile touched his mouth. I would not dare suggest it. I am serious. I know. She looked back at him. I am still going to school on my money. Yes, I am still going to tell you when you are wrong. I am counting on it. And if this becomes something ugly, I leave. Roman swallowed. That one hurt him. He nodded anyway. Yes. Ella studied him for a long time. Then she reached out and took his hand. Not softly, not shyly. Firm. Equal. Roman looked down at their joined hands as if he had been handed something more dangerous than a weapon. Ella said, You can try. His eyes lifted. That is not exactly yes. It is better than yes. How? It means do not ruin it. The laugh that came out of him was quiet, startled, and real. Ella smiled then, fully. The clinic opened on a Tuesday. By 7 in the morning, people were already waiting outside, mothers with children, line cooks still smelling of fry oil, an old dock worker pretending he was there for his cousin, women in uniforms, men with pain in their shoulders and fear in their eyes. People who had learned to delay care until delay became danger. Ella stood near the front desk with her acceptance letter folded inside her bag. She had paid the deposit herself. Roman knew. He had not said a word about it. That silence was one of the kindest things he had ever given her. Dr. Boone unlocked the doors at 8 sharp. Let them in, he said. The first patient was a little girl with a cough and pink beads in her hair. She looked up at Ella. Are you the nurse? Ella smiled. Not yet. Roman stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets. She will be, he said. Ella turned her head slowly. Roman caught himself. If she chooses. The little girl giggled. Ella tried not to smile and failed. Outside, across the street, 2 of Roman's former men watched from a black car. They looked confused, maybe disappointed, maybe afraid. They had expected the old Roman to return colder after betrayal. They had expected Ella to take money, take power, take her place beside him as something owned and decorated. Instead, she stood in the doorway of a clinic with her own future in her own hands. Roman stood beside her, not in front. The city moved around them, wounded and alive. Ella reached for the door as another family stepped inside. Roman looked at her once, then at the waiting room filling with people. For the first time in his life, he did not feel smaller because someone beside him was strong. He felt steadier. And when Ella glanced back at him, he understood what had shocked them all. Not that she saved him, not that she stayed, but that she could not be bought. So the only thing left for Roman Maddox was to become a man worthy of being chosen.